The month of November, it's a tricky time. You've got winter is like here, almost, okay? For some of you might have even had your first really snap of cold weather. Others might still have that 60-degree water temp. These are my top 5 baits of how I tackle the month of November. The first bait for the month of November is a Whopper Popper. And you might say, Alton, this was in your October video. It's true, it was. And this is a bait that's a first half of November. If your water temps are still, you know, that 58 to 60 and above, a Whopper Popper buzzbait style bait is still a great way to generate bites and quality bites if fish are still in that wolf packing phase. But once you get those first couple really big cold snaps, and I'm talking, you start seeing water temps 57, 55, this thing is going to be put in my box until April, and you won't see me. I need to throw right there. No way, right? Dang, it was worth a try. How cool would that have been? That was actually perfect. I just picked this up to throw at that bass. For bait number 2, month of November, is a jerk bait. As fish start to, you know, kind of pull off the bank and begin to feed, you know, the shad are gonna leave the backs of the creeks. A jerk bait is a great way to target these fish. Typically, I'm fishing cover of some sort, be it standing timber, brush piles, some rock points and you know, secondary points. But a jerk bait, anytime they're feeding on shad and they're not in that super shallow water, is gonna be a great way to catch fish. If you're a scoper, it even makes it better. But I've caught fish for years and years and years, long before I ever had live scope, on a jerk bait. One of my favorite ways to catch them. My number 1 tip for you, if you're fishing a jerk bait, it tends to excel on sunny days and windy days. November, your water temps haven't gotten cold enough where we're doing that wintertime jerk and let it sit for 30 seconds. I'm still fishing it fairly fast. It is a reaction bait. Try to let the wind be your friend. If there's a windy side of the lake and you're fishing main lake points or timber and drains, fish the windy side where fish are gonna have that advantage. The bait fish are gonna be a little stirred up. It's still a reaction bite. The water's not that cold yet, so fish it pretty fast. Moving on to lure number 3, it is the Alabama rig.
Which we don't have a B-roll shot of.
We don't have a B-roll shot of or anything because I don't own an Alabama rig, straight up, because we're not allowed to throw it in tournaments. And it's one of those baits that's so good, if I have it in the boat, that's all I'll throw. And it doesn't make me a better angler for tournaments, pro tournaments, because they're outlawed in them. When it comes to Alabama rig fishing, a lot of the same places I'm gonna fish the jerkbait. Obviously gonna fish it a little bit deeper, you know, 10 foot and deeper, fishing it on windblown points. Fishing it fairly fast, depending on the water column. Like it still can be a reaction bite, but I'm gonna throw a small compact Alabama rig, something like the G-Crack Stealth 5, or you know, it's really only about yay big, and I'm gonna throw a small swim bait on it, something like the G-Crack Gyro Star, or this is the Bellows Gill Swimmer. Small blades, small baits. The fish are not typically feeding up on those giant shad yet. And so something a little bit smaller, a little bit more finesse, more compact, I think generates more bites. They see a lot of Alabama rigs on most lakes starting about this time of year. Setting yourself apart with either a different color, different bait combination is really, really key. I'm not the biggest Alabama rig expert because, like I said, I'm not allowed to throw it. But it's something all of you guys should have in your boat if your most important thing is catching bass this time of year. So the Alabama rig is number 3 on my list. I've got 2 more baits to go for the month of November, and number 4 is a mid-diving crankbait. And with this mid-diving crankbait, it can look like a lot of different things. I'm talking crankbaits that are going 6 to 12, maybe even 15 feet. You're kind of creeping up on that deep diver. This is a DT10 here, and it can look like a lot of different baits. Like this one here is a shad pattern. I'm on a lake with a lot of rock, or you know, maybe even some smallmouth. I might start leaning towards like those brown and reds, those crawfish colors if it's a little colder. Throwing a wigglewort style bait. But here in Texas or in the deep south, shad is still the predominant forage, and so that's why I'm gonna throw this. It is a great way to cover water. Fish are starting, like I've said before, pulling out of the creeks. I'm gonna fish a lot of secondary points and then main lake points in the mouths of creeks and things like that. I'm gonna fish it pretty fast. It's still a reaction bait. Throw the right crankbait for the depth. This is a DT10. You want a bait that is really making contact with the bottom. in the strike zone. A lot of people I see make a mistake of they throw a bait that's gonna run 10 feet, but they're throwing it in 12 feet of water. You've got that strike zone can be very small. Getting something that's gonna, you know, really stir up some silt sediment, cause a lot of ruckus. And also you hear the term hunting with the crankbait, and some crankbaits do hunt good as you reel it in, but what makes every crankbait hunt is bottom contact, okay? So it's gonna give it a lot more of a reaction bite, as it's gonna duck, dive, and dodge left and right, triggering those strikes. If your bait's not making bottom contact, it's more than likely coming straight back to the boat, and it's just not gonna generate the same number of strikes. For my last bait for the month of November, this is embarrassing. It is the Shaky Head.
Why is it embarrassing?
Because I don't like throwing the Shaky Head. We just talked about fishing fast, doing cool stuff, jerking, Alabama rigging, cranking, and then we got dragging a Shaky Head. It's just not the funnest thing in the world to do, but what is fun is getting bit. And this thing right here generates bites. It's probably caught as many bass as just about any technique you can imagine. It's probably caught more bass than a drop shot, more bass than a wacky rig, because it's been around longer, but it is a staple because it is a fish catcher. I'm gonna be fishing this mainly on points, mainly around rock or stumps, some type of specific cover. And the biggest thing I can say is you fish it slow. There's no such thing as fishing a Shaky Head too slow. This is the G-Crack bellows stick on the back of it. This is a bait that moves very well with very little movement. And you know, you can kind of plug and play any worm you want, any type of finesse worm or trick worm, whatever. But a Shaky Head, and almost always when I'm throwing a Shaky Head, lighter is better. Now there are days when it's windy and you just can't throw a light bait. You know, those are the days you can upsize. But if it's generally calm, you know, 10-mile-an-hour wind and less, I'm gonna throw something like an 1/8. I want a slow, natural fall. I want something that's more finessey than most presentations that these fish are gonna see. And lighter is almost always better when we're talking about generating bites in tough times of year. And there's gonna be people that'll argue that. I'm not the end all for fishing information, but in my opinion, lighter is almost always better. And that is why the Shaky Head is on my top 5 baits for the month of November. Those 5 baits right there are ones you must have for the month of November if you want to catch more bass. Any of the baits that I've shown right here are going to be linked down below, so make sure you check them out. And thank you guys for watching. We've got more fall content coming right at you, so stay tuned.